Couch with Your Popcorn. I'm Dave.
And I'm Rob.
And today we'll be reviewing Back to the Future with Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd.
That's right. This movie is a classic. It came out back in 1985, and I haven't seen this movie in a while, so it was nice to get back into it, because we had a request to review Back to the Future. I don't think I've seen the other two movies, though. Have you?
Yeah, I have. The second one is so-so, and the third one is just like way out there dumb, because it's like...
That's one that's set in the West?
Yeah, they go to the Wild Wild West, and it's got like really nothing to do with the first two, because the second one kind of plays off of this one a little bit. They're still in the city and whatnot, and then he's having trouble with like some kind of this like other guy's like kind of like stealing his identity or something or whatever.
Yeah.
It's been so long since I've seen it, but yeah, this one is my personal favorite out of all of them.
This was a real fun movie to watch. You know, I was, like I said, it's been a while since I've seen the first film, and I thought it was a very fun, exciting comedy sort of picture. It was really enjoyable, and I think the cast helped play a role with that, because Michael J. Fox, he's cast as this sort of funny, quirky, cocky sort of character. He's like Ferris Bueller. He doesn't really respect school authority, and he doesn't like to go to school, and doesn't like his family. You know, it's sort of relatable. And of course, Christopher Lloyd, he's always been good at playing, what shall we say, eccentric characters. So I think he was perfectly cast. I think he was, for me, the most memorable character out of the whole movie, and I think he had the funniest dialogue out of the whole thing, too.
Right.
And, of course, the family, Marty's family, he's like an outcast from his own family, because he's got like a sort of a nerdy dad. His brothers and sisters are kind of like that, too, and the mom's a little old-fashioned, and he's, hip, cool sort of person.
Right, yeah. And then the whole incident that happens that when he goes back in the past and everything, and what he ends up doing is just like extraordinarily funny and all that.
There's some very good stuff here. This movie, I was wondering whether this movie would still hold up, because it was made, back in '85, but I think it still holds up very, very well, even though times have changed, because I think the reason is because, this movie, it's a time travel movie.
Yeah.
You go back to the 50s, and of course you can see what people were like in the 50s, and the culture a little bit, and what they had, and of course in the 80s, what went on there, and I think what helps is you still got characters that are kind of still around today. You got, the person that's the cool person that's got the girl that he wants, and you got bullies, unfortunately, like you do today, and then you have, nerds.
Yeah.
So I think in that aspect, it still holds up in that way, because you get to nowadays you can relive two different time periods, the 80s and the 50s.
Yeah, and this is one of those movies that's fun for like new teenagers of today that are, they don't really know much about the 80s except for what they've read, but this film is still like cool for them to watch, and this has pretty much been a cult classic, especially like this one here.
And it's very quotable too.
Oh yeah.
The famous movie at the end, he's like, hey, where they're at the concert, like, hey, this is your cousin. You know that type of music you're looking for? Listen to this. They pulled that off on Family Guy. I mean, there's a lot of quotable and famous stuff from this movie.
Yeah, they've made fun of this movie a lot on Family Guy and on one other show. I think maybe American Dad, they did it once or whatever.
Well, a lot of people, films and TV, have played up on this. And this is a weird thing. This movie, in a way, kind of predicts the future of its own. We still, there's a terrorist little subplot in the beginning of the movie that still, I was shocked to see, because, especially now with what happened like 10 years ago, with terrorism, and there's something going on with a terrorist in the beginning of this movie. I was like, whoa, really?
Right.
And then, of course, there's the thing at the end of the movie where Doc is experimenting with turning garbage into cars. There's some places that are trying to do that. They're trying to take garbage and turn it into fuel for cars, because of oil and stuff. And I was like, really? It's still, that also helps make it, somewhat relevant today. And I'm like, whoa,
it's almost like this movie kind of predicted the future a little bit really well, because what we saw in here has basically happened. So
some of it, and so I think that's a pretty weird kind of experience to have with it. When I was watching this movie, I'm like, this story should sound absurd on paper, because Steven Spielberg was one of the producers of it. I mean, if this was pitched to me, I'd be like, Robert Zemeckis, you're nuts. Get out of my office.
Yeah.
But it works. It's a funny, enjoyable movie.
It looks very good on film, even if it does look silly on paper, and even plus two with the exhibit that they put from it at like Universal Studios and all that with the DeLorean, the car that's in this film. That's what they call it. And then everything else there about it, that ride is pretty much still held up, I've heard.
Yeah,
People still have fun going on it.
Yeah, I think it's still going on there, but this is a really fine movie. They just put all 3 movies out onto a DVD box set, and I think on Blu-ray too. So if there's people that haven't checked the movie out, check it out. Of course, this is an old VHS copy, but it's now out on DVD. Speaking of the past, videotape copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely say check it at least the first film out with your popcorn. I think it's a very funny, exciting movie, and there's still something that I think even people today can relate to.
Right, yeah, I definitely agree. Check this movie out with your popcorn.
Cool. All right, well, that's our review of Back to the Future, and thank you for watching.